Hello my friends, today will be a dank video. I don't mean dank, I mean tank, because we're gonna watch a video about Leopard 2, the German tank, yes. Before we do, here's a word from today's sponsors. Now this is the first sponsor that is not Rehi in this channel, so let's go. Hey you like tanks? I like tanks. I want to buy myself a tank, but I don't have the money because it's way over $1 million. Well, I got a solution for you. World of Tanks. It's free to play. I mean, I love history, weaponry, history of battles, and this game combines both of them. Historically accurate tanks, over 550 of those historically accurate tanks. I mean, it would take you forever to play through all of them tanks, so I suggest you start now. There's also over 40 battle arenas and over 100 million players. Whoo, that's a big number. I suggest you go and register yourself through the invite link in the description below. You get the invite code also, which gives you T127 tank, 500 gold and 7-day premium access. I guess it's gonna be a gaming week for you, my friend. The link and the code only work for new players, so if you already play World of Tanks, go away. Why are you watching this video? Go and play. If you like my channel, you're going to love this game. Go and play World of Tanks, the link is in the description below. Let's go back to the video. People write to me sometimes, why do you only do US weaponry, US military? Well, now we have a German tank for you guys. German tanks were really good in the Second World War and they haven't gone worse, they've only gone better. So nowadays they're even more of a beast. I mean, some people say they are a rival to the M1 Abrams. Before we start, as always, we have new patrons on this channel and I will read them to you. We can all acknowledge them and give them fame. We have Mr. Paul George, thank you. Then we have Michael Collins, thank you Mr. Collins for becoming a patron. And finally we have Jared Humble. Ooh, a humble man, Mr. Humble. Well, I humbly thank you for becoming a patron. If you want to support the channel, the link is in the description below. Become a patron. But now, let's see what is this Leopard 2 and is it truly a rival of M1 Abrams? You can see the iron cross on the tank. Oh baby, yeah, it fires! Of course it does, it's a damn tank. Hey! Loving these clips. They look dangerous, man. They look like they could take out an entire squadron of Russian whatever tanks.
Beautiful German main battle tank.
Oh.
The Leopard 2 is without
They do look beautiful, I have to say. Looking at this tank, it looks like it is massive and strong, but it also looks like it could maneuver and it's just beautiful. I like it.
Doubt the most important late Cold War European tank, and along with the American Abrams forms the backbone of NATO armoured forces to this day. Much like the Abrams, it was born in the late 1960s and early...
I mean, no, if you tank versus a car, no, there's no challenge there, right? Like it was nothing. Like a knife through butter it went through that car. And I heard it said it's the back part of NATO. Well, I am glad, because Estonia is part of NATO and we rely heavily on NATO's armed forces, which means if we have this backing us, we're good.
Early 1970s, as a result of the ambitious but ultimately unsuccessful MBT-70 or Kampfpanzer 70 American and German joint development program for the future main battle tank of the Western armies. When the program began to have issues, it became more and more obvious that the vehicle would not only be significantly delayed, but also that it would be extremely expensive and excessively heavy. On the German side, the program was stopped in 1970 after 7 years of development, and this was with the cost reaching over $830 million.
Oof.
The Americans would continue developing the concept further, resulting in the XM803 prototype, before finally cancelling their part of the project in favour of the beautiful Abrams. Germany also sought an alternative and upgraded the Leopard 1, which entered service in 1965
I love how it moves.
to the levels required by the...
It's just beautiful and neat and clean. I like it. I really do like it. I like everything about what I'm seeing right now. Tanks can be ugly visually also, but this one is not. And also, I gotta be honest, not a big fan of the Abrams visual also. Abrams is a very good tank, one of the best in the world, but I just don't like how it looks, honestly. I like how this one looks. This looks good.
KBZ-70 program. Using the components developed in the program, it made for quite a formidable tank. The first steps towards this were taken as early as 1965, immediately after Leopard 1 entered service, in the form of a program called Gilded Leopard. In parallel, the German government began a development project that was independent from the United States of America, which was an experimental development program. Its main objective was to test various technologies of the Kampfpanzer 70 in different technical environments, similar to that of the Gilded Leopard. 2 vehicles were eventually built and tested, but they were never intended to be fielded or developed into a full tank.
Do you see this camouflage, this military camouflage here? Germany changed their camouflage and their units in the 90s, I think, and they sold like tens of thousands of these just to civilian world. It is weird. Usually when an army changes their uniform, they just throw away or destroy the old ones or just, use them again at some point, but Germany just sold them to civilians. And in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Eastern Europe, you have tons of old people walking around in those uniforms. The top, at least, not the bottom, not the trousers, but the top. Which is super strange. They still have German flags on them, and you can buy them on eBay for like $10 each, and it is very strange. Just walking around and you see a grandmother wearing a German uniform. Only in Eastern Europe, I guess, but it is strange.
The knowledge gained from the experimental tanks was used to develop and build the first generation of 16 prototypes of Leopard 2, with 16 hulls and 17 turrets. These prototypes were built by Krauss Maffei, AG.
Wait, 16 holes and 17 turrets? 17? How can you have 17 turrets in one tank? It seems a bit excessive, seems too much. You would have to fill the whole tank's outer layer with turrets then.
At the time, which once again was selected as the main contractor between 1972 and 1974. They had different engines, suspensions, and weapon system configurations consisting of either the 105mm or 120mm guns. The 105mm caliber was tested in both rifled and smoothbore variants, while the 120mm guns were all smoothbore.
Guns usually rifled, right? But why don't they rifle always the big barrels, 120 for example? Why don't they rifle them? Because if you rifle a barrel, it spins the bullet, spins the projectile. It's supposed to go faster, more accurate, and further, right? So why don't they rifle them? 105 wouldn't go with that. 120, the only way to go. Bigger, more kaboom boom, destroys more tanks with lesser fire. Kaliiber 120mm.
Selles videos tutvusite te 120mm miinipildujaga.
Vehicles struggled at first to meet the Bundeswehr's weight requirements, which were later on lifted based on the Yom Kippur War analysis. The analysis proved that thick armour was more valuable than low weight and increased mobility on a main battle tank.
Okay.
To meet the protection requirements, one of the turrets, number 14, aka PT-14 mod, was redesigned as an intermediate step, eventually resulting in what would later become known as the second generation prototypes called the Leopard 2AV.
They valued armor more than maneuverability and weight of the tank. This is a very important thing. You have decisions when you're designing a tank, if you're gonna make it very heavy, impossible to destroy, or you're gonna make it light and fast and this blitzkrieg type of thing. Well, this German tank is obviously super heavy, it has a very thick armor, and about that, in the Discord, Estonian Soldier Discord server, there is a members corner there. Generals, for example, we make voice call weekly, and there's this dude Avocado who actually sent me a recording, which you can do also if you want to join. Send me a recording about Leopard 2's armor. Let's listen to it.
The Leopard 2 uses spaced multi-layer armor throughout the design. The armor consists of a combination of steel plates of different hardness, elastic materials, and other non-metallic materials. Steel plates with high hardness and high ductility are used. The Leopard 2A4's armor has a maximum physical thickness of 800mm or 31 inches, based on unofficial measurements and estimates made by former conscripts of the professional soldiers of the German army. On the Leopard 2A5 and subsequent models, the thickness is increased by a wedge-shaped armor module to 1500mm or 59 inches. The Leopard 2A5 and other subsequent models use composite screens for the pre-detonation of high-explosive anti-tank warheads.
Thank you, Avocado. Thank you for educating people. Now, if you want to take part in these videos, then become a member of this channel. Become a general. Then we can chat weekly and you can send me recordings about a topic that I will announce a week or 2 weeks before I make the video. There will be a channel called Video Contributions where you can send your input to the videos. This is where you can be in a video and you can share your knowledge and personal stories. A lot of my viewers are veterans, so this way these vets' stories can come out to the public. I like it. Let's do it.
The Leopard 2AV, or austere version, sometimes incorrectly written as American version, was a Leopard 2 prototype. built for comparative trials with the United States on the XM1 prototypes. The groundwork for it was laid on December 11, 1974, when a Memorandum of Understanding was signed between Germany and the United States regarding armor development in the 1980s. By then, the Americans had already purchased one Leopard 2 prototype, which was actually the number 7 prototype, but it was not possible to simply modify it to meet the American demands for a US MBT, which the United States shared with Germany, and 17 other prototypes were already in production. Interestingly enough, though, a number of technologies and ideas from the Prototype 7 of the Leopard 2 were copied in the XM1 development.
So US bought, in the 70s, they bought a prototype, they bought Leopard tank, but are they doing it nowadays? I don't actually know this. Is US, I know they have Abrams, right? So are they actually buying foreign tanks also? If they are, then why? Do they need different tanks for different grounds and different geographies? Or is Leopard just in some ways better than the Abrams? I don't really know, because I would think US is, the world's biggest arms manufacturer. They could produce their own tanks if they need to, but they're buying in German tanks if they are. Well, let me know in the comments, just explain this open to me. The Estonian soldier hats competition goes on once again. Another video, another competition. We have 7 new orders. I'll put them all on the board, and let me tell you, we have some new states also. We have Michael Bays from New York. We don't have New York, let's add it. See the American flag? Now it's the right way, right? These stars are on the left. So many of you commented that I put it up the wrong way. Well, no disrespect, my friends, didn't know. We have Todd Romeyn, Miss Romeyn from Michigan. Well, second one from Michigan already. We're still at the beginning phase of the competition, so the maximum number is 3. Iowa and Minnesota share the first place with 3 orders only, so it doesn't take much to put your state the first place. We have Stephen Castle from North Dakota, the underdog in the last competition that almost could have won. It had a lot of orders, although it is a rather unknown state. Well, let's make it again, not the underdog, but maybe one of the first 3. We have Robert Reyes from San Antonio, Texas. The second one for Texas already. Well, I thought Texas gonna climb high in this one, but it only has 2 right now. Other states, don't let Texas step on your toes. Do something about it. We have Andre LeBlanc. Yeah, Mr. Frenchman from Maine. I remember you were in the last competition also. I like these reoccurring names. Way to go. We have Håkon Nordgaard. I know you, Håkon. Håkon is a nice dude, part of the channel members. He's a general in the Discord server. We have spoken many times in the voice chat. You join the memberships, also become a member, and we can all chat with Håkon and me and everybody. Håkon is from Norway. He knows a lot about Norway. I have a feeling that you know everything about Norway, Håkon. But sorry, Håkon, you weren't first for the Norway. It already exists, but 2 points. And finally we have David Niles. Mr. Niles, you are from Fall River, Massachusetts. I wrote Mississippi. Let's see if I can write Massachusetts right. Did I do it right? I have a feeling that I messed something up here. It's a difficult name. This concludes today's Estonian soldier hat competition. We don't have the state of the day because everyone got 1 point only. If you want to make your state the state of the day, get 2 hats for it. Next video, new orders, new states. But now, back to the video.
2 hulls, number 19 and 20, and 3 turrets, number 19, 20, and 21, were built in 1976, all using mild steel instead of armoured steel. The Leopard 2AV had 2 main new features compared to the earlier prototypes. New hull armour, new turret based on the lessons learned from the PT-14 mod turret variant. Both features considerably increased the protection level of the vehicle. The vehicle with turret and hull number 19, furthermore referred to as Prototype 19, was equipped with an American fire control system by Hughes, and originally a British Royal Ordnance L7A3 105mm cannon because the XM1 prototypes were armed with the same weapon. The Prototype 20 Leopard 2 was armed with the more advanced German EMES-13 fire control system and the same 105mm gun, while the turret, number 21, to be tested on hull number...
I have a question, yeah. 105mm, you could go with 120. Why don't they? Is it the problem of weight? It adds a lot of weight because the ammunition and the turret itself weighs much more if it's 120. Why 105? Because nowadays tanks are getting so thick armor that you need a bigger caliber, you need better ammunition, you need very strong armor piercing and huge caliber projectiles to go through. For example, the new Armata armor, which is very strong. I mean, or if you're trying to go through the M1 Abrams armor, which is the thickest of them all. That's funny. I don't know what you need. I don't know if any of the tanks in the world can penetrate that armor.
The 20 was equipped with the EMES 13 fire control system and the 120mm L44 Rheinmetall smoothbore gun.
Look how maneuverable this is.
Prototype 19...
It's moving about 40 clicks an hour right now, maybe 50, and it can just turn almost 90 degrees and it weighs so much. This gives you a lot of information how good this would be on a battlefield. It can move fast, change its direction fast, which means it's not this heavy and gruesome vehicle that is easy to take down. Just shoot it a few times and it's gone. No, this can move.
Leopard 2AV used the prototype 1500 horsepower MB873 engine adopted from the Kampfpanzer 70. It also had Deal 570 tracks from the Gerlach G50 tracks, which were used during testing, and the HSLW 354 transmission system. It weighed a whopping 55 tons.
55 tons! German tanks are heavy, like German cars, and German technology in general is heavy and bulky and big. But no, this is also maneuverable, which gives it all of the advantages. It's fast, maneuverable, heavy, strong. I would switch the 105 to 120mm cannon and then it would be the perfect war machine. I would love to see a comparison video of Leopard 2 versus the M1 Abrams versus the Russian Armata. You know, the type of videos they do about cars sometimes. I want to see this with tanks.
The XM1 prototypes were not tested head-to-head with the Leopard 2AV. The Leopard 2AV production took a lot longer than expected and Americans didn't want to wait. Prototype 19 along with turret number 20 only got to the United States in August 1976. The tests were conducted on the Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland and lasted until December. The result was that the mobility and firepower were comparable to the XM1, but it was better protected than the Leopard 2AV. The XM1 was declared the winner after combining the trial results, despite the fact that the Leopard 2AV completed nearly all of its individual test criteria quite well. Germany actually contested the results, but to no avail. The ultimate goal of the earlier memorandum to agree on a number of components that the vehicles of both sides would share failed almost completely. After the tests, Prototype 19 was disassembled,
The countries signed these memorandums and these agreements that they're gonna joint produce some weapons and some armor. It is very good to hear that from the 60s almost the 70s already US and Germany were working very close to each other to produce this heavy armor. This gives a good feeling that this contribution would go on in the future also. US would put their input in European armed forces. I'd love this to continue. I hope Trump does not screw this up by pulling out troops from Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. Our security very strongly depends on the US troops in Estonia and the French fighters and the English troops. We have all of them troops. We need them here. Truly, we need allied forces here. And it's up to Trump. I hope he doesn't do anything stupid.
Number 19 and turret number 20 were returned to Germany, while turret number 19 stayed in the United States, where it was modified to carry the 120mm Rheinmetall smoothbore gun and tested even further. Eventually, it returned to Germany as well, where it was modified with a new fire control system and the 120mm smoothbore. Following these tests, Germany decided to go with the 120mm smoothbore along with the new EMES 15 fire control system, developed in cooperation by Hughes and Krupp Atlas Elektronik, and approved the first mass production run of 1800 Leopard 2s in September 1977. The first test run vehicle was delivered
1800 Leopard 2s. 1800. That's a lot of damn tanks. Who's gonna... I mean, yeah, they export them. US is one buyer, Germany needs some Leopards and they export them to some other allied countries also. This number reminds me of how US wanted to produce 2,300 F-35s, which is never gonna happen. Never gonna happen. 1,800 Leopard 2s also, I don't think they make that much.
On October 11th, 1978, with the Bundeswehr officially receiving its first Leopard 2 MBT, which was fourth built, on October 25th, 1979. The United States decided to, quote, save the 120mm smoothbore for later M1 variants. It eventually became the standard armament of the Abrams series from the M1A1 variant from 1985 onwards under the designation of the M256. The first production batch of the 1800 initial vehicles was placed between 1980 and 1982, which consisted of 380 Leopard 2s produced by Krauss-Maffei. Almost 209 of them were also produced by Maschinenbau Keil, and also the Krupp Group of 181 of them.
Wait, this is weird. They have this design of Leopard 2, they have fully designed it, and then they allow it to be produced by 3 different companies. In America things are different, right? They actually make a competition, and whoever wins it, for example the F-35 was won by Lockheed, right, and Martin, and they produced the whole squadron of them, the whole patch of them, 2,300 allegedly. Boeing is not going to take part in this, right? But here there's 3 different companies producing different patches of Leopards. I hear this for the first time. I thought it's one company who wins it and gets the contract and they make the weapons.
The first 6 vehicles from this batch were delivered to the Munster Tank School in 1979, and 100 were delivered in 1980, 220 in 1981, and the rest of the first batch arrived in 1982, replacing the M48A2G tanks in Afghan
So they
units.
did produce
These initial batch of
1,800.
Leopard 2s are usually only referred to as Leopard 2, or sometimes Leopard 2A0.
Way to go, Germany, fulfilling your numbers. I wouldn't have believed. 1,800 of new age tanks, modern tanks. You gotta be a powerful nation to be able to do that.
The latter designation will be used later when I talk about the confusion between different Leopard 2 variants. The Leopard 2A0 was very well protected. It did not use reactive armor kits, but the majority of its protection was offered by an advanced system of multi-layered space armored plates covering the hull and the turret sides. The sides were covered by thick armoured skirts, where frontal armour was especially covered with additional protection for the most exposed angles of engagement.
No active armor. This is a big minus nowadays anyway. It doesn't matter how thick your armor is. If it's not active, it's not explode the explosives in mid-air, so it don't reach the tank. Then you could still take down this tank with several hits. But if you have active armor, you're much more protected from RPG fire. Any kind of missiles actually, if they're not super fast.
Actual armour effectiveness and its layout is still classified. The vehicle wasn't the heaviest either, with a combat weight of around 55 tons. It carried a crew of 4 men without an autoloader, with the commander, gunner, loader and driver. Due to its power plant, it had a very respectable power-to-weight ratio, about 27.27 horsepower per ton, allowing it to go as fast as 68 kilometers an hour.
68! Whoa, that is a fast tank. If you imagine 55-ton vehicle moving about 70 kilometers per hour almost, 45, 50 miles per hour, something like that. But a tank, huge damn vehicle. You know what took a long time in the Second World War? The armored columns to move. They had to move thousands of kilometers, of the German army. And they moved quite slowly because sometimes the armor was slower, sometimes the vehicles broke down, whatever. In war, you are as fast as your armor, and your armor is fast, like the Germans, blitzkrieg, you can take any country.
Roads and 31 kilometers an hour in reverse. Fuel consumption was approximately 300 litres per 100 kilometers on road, and 500 litres per 100 kilometers on rough terrain.
100 liters per 100 kilometers. Sounds like a G-Wagon almost. G63 AMG. V12. That takes 100 liters per 100 kilometers in a city, so that's almost like a tank. It looks like one also.
It's safe to say the Leopard stuck by its name as being one of the fastest tanks of its time.
Yeah,
the
very
tank
fast.
of the 2A0 was armed with the excellent Rheinmetall L44 smoothbore gun, moved by the WNA H22 electro-hydraulic gun control system. The system was very capable. It was fully stabilized and was able to put some serious accuracy downrange. 2 types of ammunition were used, the AP-FSDS-T round or the DM-33 and the multi-purpose heat round, both by Rheinmetall. The vehicle carried 42 rounds, 15 in the turret bustle and the rest ready to use. To improve its night firing capabilities, 200 of the first production run vehicles were equipped with the PZB-200 low-level TV system, a stopgap measure before the arrival of the more advanced night firing solutions. The first batch of vehicles which were pre-modernized can typically be recognized by a tall crosswind sensor on the top of the turret, which was removed in later variants. The second batch run was known as obviously the Leopard 2A1. There were a number of differences compared to the Leopard 2A0. The crosswind sensor was obviously removed, but the most important update was that of the thermal sights, replacing the ineffective PZB-200.
Thermal sights. This is a very big step forward. We recently watched a video how American forces in the Gulf War destroyed they destroyed about 15 tanks in a matter of minutes. because they could shoot further. They had thermal vision, infrared, everything. They could just destroy everything. Thermal vision makes such a difference, because a lot of fighting happens in the night.
Originally designed by Texas Instruments and produced by the Carl Zeiss Company as part of the American-German Military Cooperation Program. Apart from that, there were a number of smaller internal changes such as the ammo rack design, external crew comm system headsets, and the sides of the turret, etc., but not huge changes. The third production run, Batch 3, consisted of 300 slightly modified Leopard 2A1s. They are not easy to distinguish between Batch 2 Leopard 2A1s, as the changes are very small, for example, elevation of the commander's panoramic sights by 5 centimeters. With the third production run nearly complete, it was decided to improve the original Batch 1 vehicles, or the Leopard 2A0s, to also carry the new thermal sights. This program ran from 1984 to 1987 in parallel with the partial third and fourth, fifth production runs. The crosswind sensor was also removed with the third production run changes as added. These modified Leopard 2A0s were designated the Leopard 2A2s. The fourth production run consisted of 300 more vehicles, and these were based on the Leopard 2A1, but they received the...
Who's ordering these vehicles? We're talking about way over 2,000 right now. Who's ordering them? Germany does not need them, because the only enemy closest to Germany is Russia, and it's far, far away. So they're exporting them, I think.
New SEM 8090 VHF radios and slightly different exhaust grills. Along with these changes, the Batch 4 vehicles received the new bronze green, leather brown and tar black camouflage pattern. Additionally, ammunition supply hatches were welded shut for protective reasons, and it turned out they could be damaged upon being hit, causing the seals to leak and making the vehicle impossible to pressurize for NBC protection. These modified Leopard 2A1s were designated the Leopard 2A3s. The fifth production run was Batch 5 and marks the introduction of the Leopard 2A4. This Leopard 2 variant was the first major modernization of the vehicle. The main difference from previous models was the introduction of a digital fire control system, as well as a new explosion suppression system.
Again, we're talking about thermal vision, we're talking about digital fire control system. Again, a big step forward. Humans make mistakes, humans under pressure make errors, they're slow. If you have these things digitalized, you are faster, more accurate, more effective in battle. You will win battles with this. So digitalized fire control system against a Soviet tank which doesn't have it and has just manpower, aiming, loading and shooting, this tank will win for sure.
Which was to increase crew survivability. The vehicle also had a slightly overworked suspension with the second and third return rollers moved by one road wheel to the back. At this point, nearly a decade after the approval of the November 1977 plan, the 1,800 vehicles that had been built have been made in 5 different production runs.
Okay.
The success of the vehicle and the need to replace the Leopard 1A4s and the 10th Panzer Division caused the German military to reconsider the initial number, and a new order of 6 production runs was made in June 1987. The production batch 6 ran from 1988 to 1989, with 150 more vehicles being built. These were modified to Leopard 2A4s with the new Dial 570 FT tracks, different box-shaped frontal sections for the side skirts, maintenance-free batteries, and a new paint scheme. Leopard Batch 6 was immediately followed by the 7th production run.
7? Oh, this has to be good. We hear about these failures in the military, you know, too expensive or too difficult to build, too not reliable, but this one has 7 runs, 7 patches ordered already by the military. It has to be damn good.
100 Leopard 2A4s, which were pretty much identical to Batch 6. And finally, the 8th production run of 75 vehicles from January 1991 to 1992.
Oh my god.
The Batch 8 vehicles were slightly modified yet again.
Right, okay, so the 8th patch was 1991, since the end of the Cold War. This was all Cold War era, it was weaponizing yourself, getting ready, but then the Cold War ended. I'm quite sure now it took some time to order the 9th patch, because then there was peace in Europe.
Visual change was the muzzle reference system mirror on the right hand side of the gun, as well as a different design for the vehicle's side skirts. The final Leopard 2A4 batch of 8 was delivered in the Bundeswehr in March 1992, ending Leopard 2 production for Germany with 2,125 of these vehicles built. Around the same time, batch 1 to 4 Leopards were improved drastically by introduction of new radios and new track systems. They were also given the ability to fire the DM-33 tungsten rod APF SDS round. These improved vehicles were also renamed Leopard 2A4s, but they weren't. For example, given the fire suppression system of the original 2A4s. As a result, there were several subtypes of the Leopard 2A4, despite all vehicles bearing the same designation, however. All German Leopard 2s have been improved to the 2A4 standard by 1993, making it the most widely used Leopard 2 model to this day. Production numbers are still to this day not final though. The Leopard 2 was a successful export item and was also built, either in Germany or locally assembled, for several other countries. Some countries opted to simply purchase the Leopard 2A4s from German stocks. The vehicles were sold primarily as the early batch of 1 to 4 tanks, modernised to 2A4 standards. Apart from different countries, the former or current users of the Leopard 2A4 include Austria, Canada, Chile, Denmark, Finland, Indonesia, Norway, Poland, Singapore, Sweden, Turkey, to name but a few.
What? So many countries use Germany's tanks. Whew! I don't want to be the enemy of those countries, and most of them are in NATO, so you don't want to mess with NATO if they have a batch of those. German armor, a thing to be afraid of. And a very good export article, which I heard also here. And Finland has them, the Nordic brother of Estonia. Hey, way to go Finland for buying these. They're good against Russia, I think. We don't have the money for these. Unfortunately, we can't produce them on our own, we can't buy them, so we rely on European nations to come to our aid if necessary.
Of course, the Leopard 2A4 was still in dire need of upgrading. Being it's the most popular common variant of the export of this vehicle, it is still being used today, recently in combat in Turkey against the Islamic State and terrorists and Kurdish separatists within Syria. Several were lost to anti-tank guided missiles, although whether that was due to their obsolescence or due to the poor tactics is really a matter of debate. In any case, the operational use of these vulnerable machines did highlight their weaknesses. After all, the first Leopard 2A4s did roll out from the assembly lines in 1985. One way to upgrade the Leopard 2A4 potential was to add additional armour along with other items for the Leopard 2A5 program, such as new internal spall liners protecting the crew against splinters, new electronic gun control mechanism and stabilizer, modified PERI R17 commander's sight with a thermal imager, a raised EMES 15 fire control system position, and EMS 15 FCS housing received additional armour also. Many countries opted to upgrade their Leopard 2A4s to the 2A5 standard, starting from the early mid-1990s all the way up to 2005. The development then continued with the Leopard 2A6 variant, and then ultimately the Leopard 2A7.
I'm going to end the video here, it goes on, but the video gets too long. I can just make another one if I want to, or if you feel like you didn't get enough information out of this one. I think there's plenty, there's too much to handle. Very cool, loving this tank, like the visuals, and like what I'm hearing, like the statistics. Still, I want to see the comparison between Abrams, Armata and this one. The Armata, the Russian one, doesn't really exist. It exists only on paper, so it's not a threat at all, but it exists on paper quite big. It's a nice design. My friends, become a member of this channel too. Put your input in the videos, or we can have a weekly voice chat in the Discord server with the generals. And as always, my friends, until my next video, stay cool and bye bye.